Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to my new people. We always have some new people. Today, we're going to do that third party update. I've been talking about it for a couple of days, and it's finally here. It's time to do it. I had thought about doing it yesterday and then ultimately decided to do that soulmate snapshot about what kind of energy is coming your way, which, if you guys didn't catch that one, it was a very uplifting sort of reading. It was letting you know what's coming your way and maybe even a little bit about some of the lessons that you get to learn as a result of this. And I say get to learn because it was like these lessons will be easier to learn than some of the ones that you've been facing and that you continue to face with your person that you've been getting these readings about. So it was an interesting foray into kind of where things are headed and what's coming for you that's going to make things a little bit better. But let's go ahead and get into this third party reading. This is going to be a look at what is happening with that third party, and in particular, how it's impacting your relationship with this person. We really want to bring that part out. So it's going to be a general reading for this collective. If it does resonate with you and you are not already a subscriber, you might want to think about subscribing, because these messages, and I put them out every day, except for that one day where I was sick, but we put them out every day, and we talk about what's happening with this, and it's really kind of a flow. So you may find some other messages out there that within this channel that will kind of help you out and help you understand what's happening with this situation. So we're going to start by looking at the energy that's happening around your person right now, because it's about the third party, and it's going to be the third party energy on your person's side, and that's kind of what we're looking into. So we're going to start by looking at what's happening in their energy right now, just kind of what's happening with them. We may do a deep dive into what's happening with them and go beyond that third party depending on what comes out. Maybe we do that tomorrow or in the next few days. But for now, we're just kind of starting with that. So we've got the Emperor card. It's not a particularly balanced Emperor, unfortunately, but it is... it's that masculine energy, but it's kind of like them trying to find their place in it. So there's a little bit of them maybe trying to control things a little bit too much, trying to control the narrative in particular. But I also see an effort to try and make things right. We often see that effort toward balance. This is not balance, but it doesn't mean they're not trying to move towards something that it feels like balance. And remember that third party is anything that's impacting your situation. So it's not necessarily another person, could absolutely be another person. And it doesn't matter how long that person or situation has been around. So this could be work. It could be they might be married. Maybe both of you are married and we're focused more on their third party situation at this time. But it's about something that is impacting the situation between the two of you somehow. And it's a significant enough impact that we need to do a reading about it. It could be somebody in their family. It might not be somebody that they are directly, connected with, like a romantic connection. This is one of those questions that comes up, and I felt like I should probably define my terms. Because one person asked, this person's been married for 20 years. Aren't I the third party? And so whereas I understand where that's coming from, by definition, that's not the case. So anything that is outside of you, regardless of how long it has been in the picture, is what I'm talking about. So even a person who's been married for 20 years and your relationship with this person is relatively new, that would still be the third party because it is outside of the two of you. And another thing, one person a while back said, well, my person is married and they have a job that is a very overbearing, and they have like a sibling that is incredibly overbearing. So they've got a third, fourth, and fifth party. And so all of those would fit under the third party umbrella, even if they have like a third, fourth, and fifth party, as that person mentioned. And I thought it was not funny, but like kind of a funny way to put it. Anyway, just kind of wanted to put the definition of the terms out there so that we're all using the same terms. So we've got the King of Spheres and the Three of Cups that have also come out. Three of Cups is a specific reference to that third party and the impact that it's having on their situation and on your situation. So we know that they are being impacted by that. We also know that they're looking to find some balance, but they're not really there yet. With the King of Spheres in the reverse, though, it feels a little bit more like that emperor energy, but it's specifically wanting to look a certain way in their emotions. So they don't want to look like they are out of control of their emotions. They very much want to look a certain way. There's an egoistic element to the King of Spheres, because it's really about wanting to control kind of what's happening. And usually that's not what I get. So that's like the King of Pentacles. It's not necessarily what I usually get from that. It's almost like King of Wands and King of Cups mixed up in this King of Spheres. So I think it's just bouncing off that Emperor so much, which is really all four of the kings put together. But this is the unbalanced portion that says, I need to control this because I don't really feel like I am in control. I don't really feel, and I feel like I need to be, out of a need to kind of protect myself. So the Three of Cups here, again, specific reference to that third party, that it's large and in charge in their life right now. So that's, we start right off with that feeling. Now we also have, oh, what was that? Let's see. We also have the Ten of Cups. Aha. So the Ten of Cups, sometimes I talk about this being that thing that feels like it's too good to be true, and how do you react when you come across that? And in their case, they weren't quite sure how to react when they came across this Ten of Cups, which was you in this case. It might have been more than just you. It might have been the situation surrounding you. So if you work together and they came in, I'm just making an example, but you know, you work together, they came into this job that they thought was going to be pretty awesome, and they came in and you were there, and it's just this whole bright spot in their life that you played a starring role in it, but they didn't know how to handle it when they came upon this situation. Not knowing how to handle something that seems like it's too good to be true is absolutely common. And it is something that I feel pretty strongly here and often feel within this collective. In a lot of cases, they took off. They ran. They weren't sure what to do. And so they bolted, and, you know, they may have ghosted out. They may have just stopped communicating in any meaningful way. There were walls that came up, partially because of this third party and the fact that they felt a need to control it. However, it changed something in them. And with the Ace of Pentacles, that one often comes across to me as opening some kind of new door. And this is no exception. That's definitely got that feeling to it of having opened a new door. So we have the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse. That is inconsistency, and the King of Pentacles in the upright. All right, so at some point in this process, and it feels like it's a bit of a cyclical process, but somewhere in here, they feel like it's time for them to move into something new. Time for them to move into a new place. This new door that's opened in them is partially responsible for that. This Knight of Pentacles, though, says that they are not being consistent about it, and you see probably some inconsistency with them. And a lot of you have seen they come in, they're really charismatic, they make sure that you're still there, and then they kind of bail. You know, it's it's textbook narcissist behavior, even if you're not specifically dealing with a narcissist. And a few days ago, I did a reading where I was talking about the love bombing and why there's no in between. There's no gray area. It's either they're love bombing or they're out, you know. And my title, somebody said, you are describing a narcissist with your title. And I can't agree more. The one thing that I would say is that doesn't mean I'm going to diagnose your person as a narcissist, because that's not what I do. I do have a professional job. That's not it. So I will absolutely not be saying that. However, I will say that's narcissistic behavior, and you will sometimes see narcissistic behavior out of people that are not diagnosable narcissists or who haven't been diagnosed, or, you know, it doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest. The behavior is the behavior, and I'm just calling it like I see it. So I won't be diagnosing anybody, but I absolutely will call it out when I see that sort of behavior, and that's what this is. We've got the Devil in reverse, though. So you've cleared something up for them with regard to this third party. I feel like it is specifically with regard to this third party. But we've also got the Queen of Swords. So they're not... I almost expect to see like the Magician card in the reverse, or something of that nature. Because it feels like... And I was looking down, I was like, is that it? It is not. And this was not meant to be part of the reading. So when I get in there, sometimes I only want the top card. Sometimes I want the top 5. I don't know. I stop when the cards start having that glow to them. So the Devil card in the reverse says you have unlocked something in them. You unlocked something in them just by being you. It wasn't anything special that you did. It was something that you helped them to see. Might also be special things that you've done, such as giving them unconditional love, really kind of opening their eyes to something. And you have opened their eyes to something, but this is not something they've necessarily been able to share with you or not been able to share with you fully. And part of that is because they won't let themselves. So with the Queen of Swords in the reverse, this is the energy of not making any sudden moves, not making any rash decisions, which generally I would say that's a positive thing. But this is also a little bit of like maybe too much hesitation in that Queen of Swords. All right. Oh, we got a couple of them that came out there. Let's see what glows. We got the Ace of Swords for sure. We got the Page of Pentacles, and I think that's actually it. Okay. I didn't even see what the rest of those were. I just saw that they were kind of, there's a weird, I don't know that it's weird. There's a way that I'm able to tell if something is supposed to be part of the reading or not. And, it's just kind of always been that way. And I never know how many cards it's going to be. So with the Ace of Swords here in the reverse, it's got, with the Page of Pentacles, there's a lesson that they need to learn. But with the Ace of Swords, they're getting in their own way. It is self-destructive behavior. It is fear based on this Queen of Swords, and digging a little bit more into that feeling, or expressing a little bit more into that feeling. I think the Queen of Swords is telling you there is something that is a threat. So we've seen this in the readings before, a threat that comes from this third party situation that basically it's like if you got a spouse that says you're not allowed to go out and do certain things because you will lose everything. I will leave you. You will lose everything. You will no longer be able to see your family. You'll no longer be able to see your kids, whatever it is. There's some kind of threat. Maybe they lose political power if it's a work thing. There's something that they are perceiving very much as a threat, and they're associating it with you. So you've opened something up for them, but it's like a door they can't quite walk through. And so here we have the Temperance card. We talked about having that sense of like they're looking for balance. They're wanting to find some balance, but they're not necessarily making all of the right steps to find balance. This is somebody who has been looking to establish balance, and we see that with the Emperor up here. But since it's not coming easily, there is this tendency in them to try and push it. There's a tendency in them to say, okay, so if it's not going to happen, then I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make that balance happen. And I'm just going to kind of run roughshod over whatever my reality is because I want it to be a certain way. And this is something that has historically worked pretty well for them. They've been able to say that and make that happen. And so this is moving on a path that they've traveled before. So now let's look into what's happening with this third party, because this is the energy that they are in. But looking into what's happening with the actual third party situation, we already had that Three of Cups come out telling you this is very much, this energy that they're in is very much, it's in the force field of that third party. So we've seen that before where there's that feeling of the force field. Like when they get closer to this third party, they don't think the same way. They don't function the same way. They are blind, for lack of a better term. Like they get in there and all of a sudden they forget everything they know. They forget about their happiness. They have a pattern that they get into when they go to work or when they go home to this spouse or whatever that situation is. And that pattern is very ingrained, and basically that person holds power over them. Not as much power with the Devil in the reverse over there. Something broke. And we've seen evidence of that too, where sometimes we'll do a reading on the third party and say, things are shifting, not ending necessarily, but they will never be the same. And of course, in some cases, they have been ending. We've seen some of the situations with these third parties ending. We have the Ace of Spheres here. It's more of a recognition of that door that you have opened within them that cannot open while they're with this person. Cannot open when they're under the influence of this person, when they're sitting in that force field. There is an ancient pain, and we see that with the Ten of Swords here, an ancient pain that has plagued them for far longer than they've been together with you, far longer than they've been interacting with you. An ancient pain that this person, this third party, this situation, whatever this is, it is not moving them in the right direction. It is, in fact, causing them to recognize that they need to go on a quest to figure out what the right direction truly looks like. So that's what we've got here with the Eight of Cups. It's that need to go on a quest. It's a need to walk away from what currently exists so that they can walk in the direction of something different. Unfortunately, we also kind of got that Seven of Cups feeling here where it's a little bit murky. They're not quite sure which direction to go. That's a card that we've seen come out a lot here lately as well. Just kind of, I'm not sure which way to go. I just know I'm not in the right place. They also understand because of their experience with you, and it was really kind of you gave them a glimmer, a glimpse into what could be, and that included some of that ancient pain falling away. However, this is something that they're sort of locked out of as long as they're hanging out with this third party. And yet, we know there are lessons that have to be learned with this third party that they're not quite done learning. So there's a lot of challenge both directions on that. They can't leave, they can't stay, and I mean, nothing is comfortable at this point. They definitely have a need to walk away from what they know as their current reality and go find something different, whether it means quitting the job, getting a divorce, walking away from the person. That's more material and concrete 3D type talk. This is conceptually walking away from what they've known to be their reality in the past. So here we have the Eight of Pentacles. This is their willingness to, and this comes and goes. Reminds me of that Knight of Pentacles in the reverse over there. It's a willingness to do the work. It's a willingness to perform the mastery or get to a mastery sort of level. But unfortunately, it does come and go. You know, they're not really ready to engage fully. They're not ready to jump in with both feet just yet. Let's see here. And so we have the Ten of Wands. They're getting a little bit overwhelmed with this. This is the feeling of a burden, the feeling of living two lives, the feeling of, okay, so what this immediately brings to mind is it's more of an example. It's a person who's married. I know not all of your people are married or even have a significant other in the picture, but the example that's popping in for me is your person is married. And this pressure of kind of living a double life and having the awareness of you and what you represent in their background is very challenging for them because they can't just ignore it. They can't just walk away from that. It's starting to feel very heavy. And it's the concept feeling like they are living a double life, feeling like they have to make sure they say certain things or don't say certain things. They've got a moment here. This, for whatever reason, this is a special time in this third party situation because they've got a little bit of a chance to reflect, a little bit of a chance, like not necessarily saying that everything around them has calmed down. And in fact, it may be the opposite, but it's enough things looking the other way that they've got a moment to reflect, and it's helping them to kind of see the level of delay that they're in. So this is the Star card. And when I say delay, it's delay in moving toward their happiness, moving toward that sun, moving toward that success, that Six of Wands. So they are connecting the path that they need to go on with a path of success, but it's not financial success exactly. It's like it's more the spiritual success. It's knowing that you've done the right thing by yourself, knowing that you've done right by yourself. We have the Chariot. They are feeling almost as if they are being catapulted toward doing something. They feel like that need to walk away, but they also feel threatened, so they can't make any rash decisions. And yet they've got this, I can only describe it as like a springtime, let's jump into something new kind of feeling represented by the Fool card. And yet it's like they'd have to look the other way or pretend like something didn't matter in order to have that happen. So in the situation that I mentioned earlier where someone says, hey, you can't do certain things or I will leave and you will not be able to see your kids anymore or something like that. Like they know they need to make a decision that impacts this, that changes this, but they can't reasonably do that and say, well, I'm just going to do this knowing that I'm not going to be able to see my kids anymore. It creates an issue. They have a need for investment, but they feel like maybe they've invested in the wrong direction so far. So there's a little bit of a depression that kind of comes in with this. So they've got this feeling of, you know, a couple days ago we did a reading where your person wants to keep you in a holding pattern until they get it together, until they get their act together. And in a lot of cases, it had to do with this third party. Well, here it's, I feel like I've gone too far in the direction of this third party, and now I need to regroup and figure out like how much harm I've actually done, because they haven't invested in your direction or in their own direction, perhaps more importantly, because that internal reconciliation is going to be required before they do too much investment in your direction, or else they're just going to be walking in the, a pattern that they've done before, and it doesn't serve them, doesn't serve anyone, wouldn't be good for either of you. So they've got some healing that still needs to be done. Now, with the Empress card here, this is actually kind of beautiful. So we see an element of this being, they get through this day with the third party partially because of the energy that they are able to lean on with you. So I almost feel like this is the Empress card and the Strength card put together, and maybe even a little bit of that Nine of Pentacles, because so often I get that sense from that. But this is about them leaning on you to move forward, but it's actually kind of neat. One of the things that when they're able to access that energy to lean on, it's not negatively impacting you. It's not taking away from your ability to live your life, although you will feel the pull, you will feel the draw from them. Knight of Wands says there's a lot of passion in them that they kind of maybe thought was gone. And they're discovering in this, and as they kind of, I wouldn't say they're doing a ton of soul searching, but this Eight of Cups feels a little bit like they're doing some. They're starting to figure out what's wrong. We see that growing level of awareness. There's a passion that makes them want to jump out and do something new, but also with that feeling of they'd have to turn the other way a little bit because they'd be destroying something that they really care about, or potentially having to fight for something in a whole new way. So if it's, getting to see their kids, using that example again. And I get that, some of you, these kids are grown. It's not that, it's going to be something different, but it's a very good example of how that energy feels. There's something that they feel like they no longer have, they don't have control over it. They would like to have control over it. They're trying to exert some control over it because that is what has historically worked fairly well for them. But it is also, they're feeling a little bit cornered right now by entirely too many situations. The energy that you have that comes toward them, they feel cornered by that because they don't know which way to go. And they feel incredibly cornered by this third party, not just cornered, but kind of incapacitated. There are certain things they don't feel like they're capable of doing as a result of this. So with the Five of Cups here in the reverse, one of the things that I have seen coming out time and time again for you and for this person is that they have a greater and increasing awareness of what's going on in their situation. This Five of Cups in the reverse reflects that. So it's seeing the stuff that they would consider positive, also seeing the things that they would consider negative. So they've got the opportunity and they've got the shame, and it all kind of makes one big picture, which honestly is a move in the right direction. It just doesn't necessarily help them figure out how they're going to balance it. But it kind of does, because it's that Ace of Swords feeling, that feeling that they, they have the great ability to pull the wool over their own eyes, because it is an inconvenient truth to look at the big picture. But here they have the capacity to look at that picture. So they're inconsistent about it, to be sure, but it's there. The potential for it is there. I think we need to look a little bit farther into the impacts of this third party, maybe understand a little bit about where it seems to be leading them from an actions perspective, because we see that, and of course their actions are going to be governed very much by their free will, but that doesn't stop us from looking at the energies and the directions that they're going, because it helps to inform us as to, when you see the action, here's a little bit of what might be behind it. And so with this Eight of Cups, we know that there's action, if only on the spiritual side, on the emotional side, but let's take a closer look at what that means. First, though, that we'll do that in the extended. Before we do that, and here I go taking my sweater off again, I think what we need to look at is how this impacts you. So given what we see here on the table, what do you need to be focused on? And this is something we like to look at in every one of these readings, because as I like to say, this is a collective that is involved very much in your own healing. You're very interested in solving your own problems. not just sitting there and being sad about it, but looking at it and saying, all right, where does this take me? I often talk about grabbing your problems by the tail, getting a closer look at them and understanding what's happening. And here we go with the Lovers. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first card that came out yesterday when we talked about the advice with regard to your what's coming in the soulmate sort of way. You were being told you're going to be given an opportunity in love, and it's an opportunity, but it's also you get choices. So instead of a situation where you get to see it, but you don't actually have much of a choice in the way that you move forward, you are going to be experiencing some choices. And I get the strong sense it's going to contrast pretty strongly with what you've seen here, which if you saw yesterday's reading, that makes sense anyway, because a lot of like the way that you would be treated by this person that's coming in is in pretty strong contrast to what you've seen and what you've experienced. And we've got the Six of Cups. Something is drawing your attention away from the situation at hand. So whether it's something that's going on in your life or a new hobby that you've kind of moved into, there's something here that is pulling your attention away from just being so hyper focused on the situation with this person. And with this Empress here, you're ready for it. That's the Empress of readiness. So sometimes the Empress is about whether you're ready for what's in front of you or whether you're not. And in this case, it's about being ready for it. So you're going to have choices. It's going to draw your attention in the day-to-day. Not to say that your attention does not sometimes still come back to this, and maybe it still happens fairly frequently, but you're going to have some choices in front of you, and you're going to be ready to move into what's in front of you. You are absolutely encouraged to focus on what is in front of you. So you have the Ace of Wands. Haha, there is that. And we've seen the Ace of Wands, but I haven't necessarily said, this is that thing. This is the thing that sets your soul on fire. But here it is. It is, in many cases, going to be associated with that soulmate that we've been hearing about. But here's the thing. You learn some lessons that are a little bit more pleasant to learn, that you may not quite think you're ready for. You're going to have to open up to yourself, and possibly you may even feel like you want to open up to this person that's coming in. But this is going to help you to negotiate what's happening over here, to navigate your next steps, and to understand kind of what sort of interesting pressures this person is under. Even if you don't get details on it and they don't come to you and say, hey, yeah, I can't talk to you because this person's going to take my kids away or whatever. You know, it's not necessarily that you're going to get specific information. I almost expect like the moon to come out to say you're going to make this decision with less information, but you are going to make it, because this is going to be about you working through some challenges, some anxiety. We've got the Nine of Swords talking about anxiety. We've got the Three of Pentacles talking about adverse situations. You may have adverse situations in your own life that cause you to not be so focused on this situation. It doesn't mean you leave it behind, but it does mean maybe you table it so that you can focus on what's happening directly in front of you. Whether it's good or bad, you know, you may have something going on or a few things going on. In a lot of cases, we got a collective where there's a lot of things going on in some of your lives. Some of you are switching jobs. Some of you have your own endeavor. Some of you have already found the thing that sets your soul on fire, and it takes a lot of your energy to sort of think it through. But you may not know what that next path looks like. With the Seven of Cups here, there are many paths out in front of you, and they are murky, kind of like what's happening with your person. They don't understand which way they need to go, and you might not either. But I also get with you, even though there's a little anxiety in there, even though there's some doubt, there's a sense of you're going to go down this path regardless, because you can't not. But I see it also keeping you a little bit quiet. So at some point in here, for one reason or another, you're deciding not to reach out to this person. It may be one day you're not reaching out. It may be just in general, you might say, all right, you know what? I'm going to wait until this person is ready to talk. I have said what I needed to say. They are now welcome to come back and respond when the time is right. And until that happens, maybe you just kind of leave them to it, leave them to working through what's happening with their third party, leave them through what's happening with their situation, because you have your own fish to fry. You have things within your situation, and we saw this also in yesterday's reading, where things are not quite in balance. You have something that you need to be able to work through, and you're going to have maybe some difficult effort working through some of it, but none of it is as painful as what you have already dealt with this person, or some of the pain that it has brought up for you. Okay, let's see. You've got that Eight of Cups. So this quest is not, it's not unique to them. You also have a need to go on the quest that helps you. We've got the Eight of Cups lesson, the Nine of Cups lesson, and the Ten of Cups lessons. Part of what the mutual lessons are for you too in this situation. Both of you have that need to walk away from not necessarily a situation, but walk away from what you have perceived to be a reality, or the reality of a situation, because you have a need to redefine some terms. With the Nine of Cups, it's about figuring out what it is that you truly want and understanding how to move in that direction. Nine of Cups is not necessarily what you always thought it was. So like your person, maybe as they were growing up, they thought happiness looked a certain way. They thought it looked like, you know, two kids and a dog and a white picket fence. And they got there and they were like, well, this sucks. I mean, not that it sucks to have that, but that it's not the way that it's no longer what they're looking for. So they now need to go on that Eight of Cups quest, walking away from what you perceive to be reality in search of that Nine of Cups, in search of that, Nine of Cups constitutes wish fulfillment. What is it that constitutes wish fulfillment for them, for you? And then that Ten of Cups is about, what do you do when you find it? So none of this is simple. But in order to do what is appropriate when you find it, you've got to have some idea, some level of trust in yourself. And that's what this Seven of Swords is all about. So this is you doing that inner child work and figuring out how to open up that trust for yourself, so that even when things in your life aren't necessarily working the way that you would want them to, like we see with this Three of Pentacles, not necessarily supporting you and uplifting you in every day, you've got your own back. You are ready to, and you don't feel put upon. You feel like you're there for yourself. You are there for you in a way that some caretaker or person wasn't in the past. So this now goes to your own ancient pain, and this is you resolving it rather than looking into someone else for that resolution. I think we need to do a bridge question on you, see how you get to that, because I think a lot of you are already on your way, but maybe what boosts you there. We'll look at that in the extended as well. But the first thing where we're going to start out with the extended, we're going to look into really, what else do we need to know about this third party, as far as what kind of actions might you be looking at, or what's going to drive, more appropriately, what's going to drive those actions that you see coming from this person going forward as they walk away from what they perceive to be their reality. So if you're interested in going to the extended, the link is down below in the description for the video. I would love to see you there. It's always just a continuation of this, but it's always a little bit more personal because there's fewer people there. So I will hopefully see you there. If not, then I will look forward to seeing you again in tomorrow's reading.